When you do something and it makes me feel good, that's an attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do something that makes me feel bad, that's an attachment. And so when you can start to recognize that she's doing this thing that makes me feel a certain thrill and joy inside, you got to be really questioning where that is coming from, just as much as the anger, the anxiety, or the negativity that comes from that.
That's why we need to really realize that everything is a reflection. So why you say, well, you have to love yourself first, because then to love yourself and take care of yourself the way you just listed, you start thinking of ways to take care of you. And that makes you get on a better state of mind and a better just being. And you're showing yourself you love yourself, because no one else is going to show you they love you if you can't even show it to yourself.
All right, so we're going to go into, right now we're talking about masculine and feminine energy, and not necessarily between the man and the woman, but more of the energetic stance. And Christina was we were just talking about before we started the podcast here, was a previous podcast that I was talking about the masculine frame and how she was interpreting it one way, but now is deciphering it in a different way. So can you start off with what you were saying?
Yeah, so we just released, I think, episode 17 of Remember You, and we were talking about the frame that a man holds in a relationship. And when I went back and rewatched the episode, it made me rethink how I was interpreting what Justin was saying, and it brought me back to one of the laws of the universe, which is the law of gender. And that's not something where you're saying I'm putting a dick between my legs and I'm a man, and I have a vagina between my legs and I'm a woman. I'm talking about the energy that we bring to this earth. And when we think about masculine energy versus feminine energy, the way I thought about it, Justin, was the frame that you were talking about was a masculine energy, whether or not you're a man or a woman. But if you hold more masculine energy, your frame is to protect and to show up in every possible way to create a safe container and space for your significant other or whoever you're partnering with. So let's just say you provide the house, that frame, right? And then the feminine energy then gets to go out and create, because creation is what feminine energy is, whether it's creating life, whether it's creating a beautiful home, whether it's creating something artistic, whether it's creating whatever it is. And we each hold those energies in us. Some people are way more far to masculine energy, and some of us are way more feminine. Some of us are somewhere in between. And then when we talk about soulmates and like how we match, we're talking about the law of gender. Mm-hmm. So we find people who are our yin and our yang. And so there's always somebody out there for you when you have that matching energy. So say I'm 60% masculine, I need to find somebody that completes me that's 40% feminine energy. And a man and a woman can hold masculine and feminine energy. And that's why there's so much how interesting relationships can be. And when energy changes, either the person has to help match and stabilize, or it kind of pulls people apart.
I think the thing that came to mind when you were talking about that 60-40 ratio is that in modern day society and the feminist movement and corporatocracy and having to work to provide your own means and be the provider and the nurturer at the same time, both men and women have to take on these roles, but it's different ratios. But where the things get lopsided is that when a woman has to be more masculine than she needs to be, and when a man starts to become more feminine than he needs to be, where there's a place and time where I need to sit and listen, but then there's also a place and time as the masculine role or the majority or the man in a relationship. There's a point in time where you listen, and then there's a point in time where you have to do the things you need to do in order to prove your worth and be that person and be that partner and that version that the other person's looking for. And masculine tends to be a little bit more assertive, a little bit more of action orientated, whereas a feminine stance is more receptive and taking, like, receiving and observing and noticing and surrendering. And a great frame for people in business is like any leadership role, any sales role, you have to take on a feminine and masculine stance depending on what's going on. Mm-hmm. And that's as much as in business as it is in life. But where back to my point with the scales kind of being out of balance here with the masculine feminine energy within women especially, is that's where I mean by men losing the frame, because they're just letting the women take on the masculine role, and then they just say happy wife, happy life, and acquiesce, and then they lose their frame as the one who needs to put the place in order.
Yeah, and that's that's the thing. If we're going to talk in terms of just a man and a woman, or masculine energy and feminine energy, we're still needing to focus on masculine energy should be provide, protect, lead, right? And so where a lot of people don't like it is like, well, I don't need to be led if I'm a woman that's working and I know I'm smart and I can do things.
But I think the word led is misleading, right? Because it's not
right.
We're going into more like limiting beliefs now,
well,
because the words create limiting beliefs.
That's only if a woman and a man don't understand what that means, if they think that means they're less. If a woman's going to take that like they're less than just because she's letting him say something and then she's either going to agree with him or not, or, have a conversation and get him to change his mind, and you usually as a woman are going to pick the man that you will follow, you think. So if you allow him to just stay in his frame and lead, and we know we can be maybe emotional at times and we can share emotional things, we need him to be able to listen, but then also stay in his frame and lead us the right way and show he loves us and can lead us to the right path. But if he can't do that, that's a problem. And that's where I think we have this problem with women thinking it may seem like it's making her less than when it's not.
Well, and I think too, it's like if you this for 1 second, think of it as instead of like a man and a woman, like the gender, and think of it more as like a partnership, right? So it could be 2 men in a partnership. It could be 2 women in a partnership. Like that still has to have that masculine and feminine energy.
Well, just to make it simple, we can just say a man and a woman. Yes. Just to make it simple.
But I think for the listeners, we have to understand that it's this energy we're talking about. It's who's taking on those roles.
Well, because let's think about this. This is biological, I think. It's not just, it's just we as women would like to create and relax and have someone lead us. So if there's 2 women together, I don't know how that's why I think it's for them to figure out. But this is where I'm coming from with biologically speaking, we as women want to relax, and we are also the ones that can have a baby and can have that issue.
Another thing, do what you do as long as you don't impinge upon somebody's freedom. And it's like, I can only speak from the perspective of being heterosexual and into the opposite sex. That's a different world. Like I trained gay clients and they talk about one of their nephews or nieces turning trans.
Yeah.
And he goes, I got no advice to give this person.
Yeah.
Because it's a different world, a different perspective. And it's like, that's the truth. So in regards to what we're talking about here, it's like, I can only speak from the perspective of understanding what you're talking about.
But this is also about remember you, right? So
and I think they take on that energy. Like if it's a same sex, but they do have the roles.
They
do take on that.
They do.
Right.
Yeah.
They do.
So, but basically speaking, they can figure out which one they are from what we're saying.
And I think as we go deeper into this, listeners, it's also about remembering you. So we're going to talk in some of the episodes coming up about hypnosis and past life regression. And I believe that you bring those energies with you into the new life. And so you might have been a man in your past life. I might have been 40 women and 30 men, whatever. But we bring that. So how we come into this world, we bring a certain level of masculine and feminine energy with us.
Absolutely. Well put.
That's what I'm trying to say about it.
Okay.
Makes sense. What were you talking about previously before she was bringing up that point?
Just the roles and why I think biologically speaking, we as women want to relax.
Yeah.
We don't want to have to do so much, and we don't want to be the man. And so, but if we pick correctly, we can do that.
That's where I think like to each his own. A woman can take on a more masculine role in certain aspects, and the man can take on a more feminine role in other aspects. And there's no wrong or right in that. But in terms of like the natural order of things, like where it's like you want to settle into your femininity and you want to be, this is where I was going to go with it, is women are loyal to their feelings. Men are loyal to the mission. Yes. And that is, that's a feature. That's a feature. So if the man is structured and the masculine is in his stance and strong frame and structured, you're free to bang your head against the wall and dance and jump off and go all around all you want with whatever your feelings are going to do. And I don't mean that in a like disrespectful way. I mean that in like you're free to be in your feelings and totally feel that, because it is a strength. Yeah, it's the spiritual connection.
If men understood this about women, they could keep frame, listen to her and her emotional thoughts and feelings, because we're going to have them.
Yeah.
Listen to her and respect what she's saying, because if you want to be with her, you got to care about her thoughts and feelings. And however, whatever you did to make her feel a certain way, respect it, acknowledge it, and say how you're going to do things differently, like how Hope said that story about looking at someone else. You know, if a man can do that for his feminine, and then they can lead and show, I love you and I'm focused on you and I'm going to understand and respect your feelings, and then we're going to move forward because I want us to be together and I want to lead us in the right direction. That's how you stay in frame as a man. When you're listening to a woman, even though she's being emotional and whatever, if that's what they want to call it, you know, then he can just lead. If he makes her feel good.
And the reciprocation here is that you're being mirrors to each other. So if you're coming emotional to me and crying or upset or overly excited, you know, you're in your feelings and you're expressing it. But as you start to see the reflection of you poised and positioned and not judging you for that, you start to feel safer and you start to actually embody more of a discernment towards your feelings. So you're not so driven by your feelings and so controlled by your feelings. And this is where society is, I see, getting out of balance, where I'm going to put it this just in a controversial way. When you give women the control and their feelings are riding their behavior
yeah.
and they're leading with their feelings, it's going to cause chaos. So it's instant gratification. And then it's we were talking about your mom. Do you want to share that? I don't want to put you on blast there.
I don't know if I want. Okay. I don't know. What did I say?
It was in regards to making.
This was like a trauma release.
Yes. It was a release that I don't remember.
It was in regards to the divorce. And like she made a decision. Right. And now it's
I'll just speak generally.
Okay.
I think women don't understand, you know, they get maybe emotional in marriages and maybe unhappy. And I don't even know what happened with my parents, really. But just thinking of that, and if women are going to decide to divorce, let's say their husband, and then later on they want to retire or be relaxed, or they didn't even want to struggle to begin with, they have to understand what that will cause. You're leaving the man that can be there and provide, and that's going to, you know, work for 46 years. Women don't want to do that, aren't able to. But men can work very long periods of time. And so if you think of that long term as like just leaving a man and then never even thinking of remarrying and having security, you have to think of just providing for yourself, which is a difficult thing for a woman. So if we're not thinking long-term as a woman, and let's say we divorce and then we get upset later, he's able to retire, he's able to have a pension, he's able to have Social Security, he's able to have all these things. And in divorce, women can be asking for these things. It is laid out that they can get half of whatever in pension or Social Security. But some women will just say no because they're in an emotional state. So think of that. If you're in an emotional state and you want nothing to do with him and you want nothing from him, but what does that look like long term when you do finally reach the age of retirement and you have to take care of yourself?
Well, and I think if we bring this back to the laws of the universe, what I hear you guys talking about is very simple. And I wrote a few things down, but if we go with the women have feelings, that's kind of where they're always coming from. There's a way that as women, we need to understand that our feelings are our power.
Yeah.
And so when we get our feelings, what you're saying in a different way is when we get our feelings under control and we are more balanced, which bring us back to the law of polarity, and we see both sides and we're not on one end of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. We're not really angry at our man because of some whatever they looked at another woman. I don't know. We'll go back to that one.
Yeah.
Or we just don't give two shits and they can look at any women that I want, or he could go do it. But wait,
it goes back.
It goes back, right? So you have to say to yourself, "Those are my feelings. I need to bring them back into balance. I can't be too far to the left or too far to the right." But then, if you think about the law of attraction, which is the final of all of the laws, which you have to understand each one of these laws first. The law of attraction only comes once you've mastered these other 13 laws. And to do that, you need a man and a woman. The woman brings the feelings as if the wish was already fulfilled. The man brings the idea.
But that's the thing you have to think about.
Ideas and feelings.
Women's feelings can be in a negative state. What is in her brain of what her life has been?
That's why the life is a mess.
Why? Yeah. Right. Why we're discussing this.
Together you have to.
Because women can attract these situations just by what they're thinking and feeling or what they embody from past lives, present life experience. Whatever you're embodying, you're attracting, right? So she's attracting the situation that she's going to react emotionally to, right? And if he doesn't stay in frame and show her she's wrong for whatever she thinks is the situation from the past or whatever she embodies about what she thinks about men negatively, what men think, all these things. If she can't go past it, of course she's not going to attract a positive thing. So she's going to attract a negative emotional thing. And then he needs to stay in frame when she has to address it.
Well, and that's why we are lovers of hypnosis on this podcast.
Yeah.
Because it's the way that you manage your mind and your belief system. So if you're believing and feeling and thinking all of these ideas and the relationship that you're in is continuing to push you down that route and you can't yourself pull yourself out of it and manage your feelings and ideas, then you're never going to find the right person.
So, but people need to be aware that they are controlling what's happening to them to even get to that place. To even think, well, it's me. I need to change my thoughts. I need to change my beliefs.
Man or woman, it is that you are the creator of your reality and who you're attracting. And bringing it to all of our experiences here, from what I understand, is we didn't have the strong, stable, secure masculine frame in our lives. I had the masculine frames that, yes, exuded some masculine traits that I respect and that I carried over into my life. But then also I picked up some bad traits in terms of like not holding my frame, how to be, reactive, emotions, reacting out of anger and all these types of things that weren't poised and like really, I wasn't self-aware, and I didn't have the masculine frame around me that was self-aware to the level that I would hope my son grows up into, right? Mm-hmm. And so same thing, I think, with all of us. What I'm trying to get to is we didn't have the example growing up, so we had to live a life of chaos to some degree because of that. I don't think it's the other way around, where you look at the statistics of like when children grow up in single family homes and it's the mom raising, there's a lot more chaos and they're more likely to go to jail. Mm-hmm. When they grow up in a single father home, it's a lot less chaos and a lot less likely to go to jail. And that's not like to point the finger at women. That's to point the finger at men that they're dropping the ball because they are the ones who lead the way. That, like you said, you're with a man that you look up to, that you want to follow in many ways. But at the same time, he cannot lead without you leading him in ways that he can't see. And it's this yin and yang that is absolutely required. One cannot go without the other.
And so what would you say for our listeners here? What can they do? Say I'll give an example. Like say I'm in a relationship where I just feel like I cannot stay in it any longer. and we're lots of fighting, lots of anger, lots of pushback. So what do our listeners do that are at that stage? Because we've all worked through this. I know what I did, and I can share that with these listeners. But what would you guys offer up as advice to get into the right frame of mind?
Well, at first, I think you need to start off with, you both chose each other, right? So I'll give an example. I keep seeing videos that people don't seem to want to understand the woman's side. An example is a woman's going on a date with a man. He goes to open the door for her, but 3 other women come through the door, and he, of course, doesn't not hold the door for them. He opens it and keeps it open for them and waits for her to. But she was so affected by this. She was upset that he held the door open for them.
Okay, pause for 1 second. So that is a frame of mind.
Right. That's why we got to realize this. People are coming from their own perception. And no one wants to understand that women have sensitivities just like men have sensitivities, but women voice them emotionally to their man. And their man needs to be able to stay in frame and realize, I care about this woman. I'm going to tell her that didn't mean anything. I care about you. But no one does that anymore. They get defensive. Like a man can just get angry and yell at you and say you're wrong and get defensive and
like,
cold.
Why are you being crazy?
You're crazy. This didn't happen because, of course, he didn't come from that frame. She had a different perception that maybe what he's perceiving. He was trying to open the door for her, and then these women walk through. He wasn't trying to open the door for them, but he wasn't going to not leave the door open for them.
I just like to say that this is a time when, as whoever has the thoughts that are incorrect or outside of what was actually going on, that's when you have to go inside.
But that's the thing. She doesn't have an opportunity to go inside when she's going to tell him how she feels, and he's not going to be receptive to it. If he's not going to be receptive to it,
is that because she's not receptive?
It's kind of like what
there has to be an understanding that she has a perception that he should not get angry about. He should listen and then try to make her understand that's not what I was trying to do. I do really care about you. But things escalate. Like things escalated in that video, and everyone's on his side. Like he's so gentlemanly. It's like, but you weren't a gentleman to the woman that you wanted to take on a date when she didn't understand or she was showing a sensitivity, and you didn't care for her sensitivity. You cared for the 3 women that you're not even trying to date. So that's the point. It's like, if we want to be aware, we better be aware better of people's sensitivities instead of our perception of the situation. Hey, I'm just being a gentleman. And that's the perception of every single person on the feed. It's like, but no. Are you caring about this woman? Do you really want to understand her? Then understand her, because all women have sensitivities.
I'm going to say one thing about it.
Okay.
If you're in this situation, I would ask every listener to do 3 things, and I call it the 3 R's. It's to recognize the emotion that you're having, to feel it and release that emotion, whether it's happy, mad, angry, whatever, and then replace it with something that serves your higher self better.
But not everyone's that aware. So that's the problem.
Was it Neville Goddard's Power of Awareness? And he said in that book that these concepts that we're talking about right here, the spiritual concepts and the far beyond what you're seeing physically and what that video is stating, 1 in 1 million people will actually get. It's very far and few in between. And this is where you got to constantly, do the work, continue to read, continue to listen, continue to reflect, continue to do the 3 R's.
Care about each other.
And more importantly, about yourself, most importantly.
Right. It's really, that's what I want to get across to our listeners. It's yourself. It's your own emotional regulation. And when you can figure out we'll go back to your example. Mm-hmm. As the person who is angry about him holding the door for 3 people, how you can't assume that he's always going to be there. So say he said, "Oh, I really understand your point of view and I'm here to support you." She would receive that a lot better and she would be happy.
That's her point.
But the thing this doesn't happen all the time in life. It's because you're challenged every day in every way to learn more and more. And so you have to learn how to be able to emotionally regulate yourself, because there's never going to be always a perfect situation, a perfect person.
And that's what we're talking about here. In relationships, that's where you get to emotionally regulate yourself. You get to have the conversations with someone that you should be able to trust. But if they're not going to be open to, you have a certain perception of something that's not right, and they're just going to quickly get offended and defensive and cold, and then that's a problem. And that's why staying in frame, understanding there are emotional sensitivities in people, and I'm going to be receptive because I care about this person, and we're going to work through it and discuss it and then do better, just like the Hope story. You know, he didn't say to her, oh, you're crazy, oh, you're wrong, oh, you're... No, I acknowledge your feelings, and I'm going to try and do better, is his response, right? I'm going to try and do different, because it's not even about doing better. It's like, I'm going to understand, but I'm going to make you, like, he does this thing where if he notices someone is feeling, you know, not so good, he knows a way to make her feel good.
So what is it?
By,
What's
you
your
know,
thing?
like when it's just the way you acknowledge, like
Sure.
to make her realize that you care about her.
Share it
right?
with the listeners. I mean, what's your advice?
But it's, you
and
know,
give us an example.
it's discernment, right? You have to discern
so-
when's the appropriate time to do it.
But what
right?
does that mean? Because I think a lot of, you're saying if it's 1 in a million that can do this recognize, release, replace, and understand what's going on, then our listeners are sitting here saying, okay, so then help me be able to have this practice.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it?
I think first and foremost, you got to look at everything from within. You can't recognize anything without or outside of you without looking in the mirror. And I'm going to say this, I think the biggest deficiency that people have, and especially women, is if you can you look at yourself in the mirror, eyes deep within, literally in the mirror, and say, I love you to yourself?
No, most women can't.
9 out of 10 people can't.
80% of people
And
do
what's
not
that
believe
about?
that. 80% of our listeners do not believe that they are worthy, and they do not believe that they love themselves. And that's why I went into hypnosis, because I am here to tell you that you changed your language and you start to really love yourself and do what Justin's saying. Look in the mirror and say, I love you so much. I am worthy. Those words will change your life.
And this is what we discussed the other day is self-worth. Like, you don't need to base it off ego. You can realize, because you can't just say I'm lovable and I'm worth.
You have to feel it.
You have to realize why. Start looking at what's so great about you. What do you do that's amazing? And start really assessing, what do I do for a living? Do I help people? You know,
well, I think most
do I
of
make
it
a
is
difference?
and this is where we're coming into this whole split of the earth, right? Staying in 3D or going to 4D. It's understanding how you are either service to self, which is an ego-based thing, or your service to others.
And then you can have your self-worth, and then you can love yourself. And you don't have to say, I don't love me, because I don't understand why someone wouldn't love themselves. But go ahead.
Hurt people.
Yes.
Right? So anytime you are witnessing or observing a situation where somebody's lashing out at you in a way that seems negative, unpreferred, whatever you want to deem it as, angry, if you can control your state in that situation, you start to morph and change your reality then and right there. So like how you would, these things happen with like straws on a camel's back. Like the first situation, you're going in as David versus Goliath, and it's scary as hell and it's hard. And you got butterflies in your stomach and you're going against this person. And I'm speaking personally, like with, my son's mom used to be that person that I was emotionally like, did not want to get into an argument with, and I avoided it at all costs. And then at a point, I just started trusting in myself, loving in myself, and as a result of that, the conversations got easier, they got more receptive, and there was more compassion, and now we're actually parenting better than we ever have before because I changed.
Yeah.
Because I focused on myself, and I focused on the self-love in a way that you could have looked at me at 20 years old and go, yeah, this guy loves himself. Maybe he's a little arrogant and cocky. But I was blind in many spots in my life. And so the work is continuous where you're never going to reach a point of enlightenment where you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Good. I'm self-aware. I got it all. I love myself fully. There's no problem. But you can also reiterate that and exercise that and go, I do love myself. There is always constantly work to be done. There's always going to be something to develop.
I mean, and it goes back to yet another law. It's the law of infinite compensation, which means that everything that you're doing, you're never going to be like, yeah, I'm done. There's always an outcome for whatever's going on, and it's going to go on infinitely.
Yeah.
And so there's always a learning experience there, and it's how you react to it.
So to reiterate, when you're asking me, what do you do in these situations? And you can't emphasize this enough. It is love yourself, self-mastery, look at yourself. If you can say, I love myself truly and authentically, like that is the barrier that nobody can break. Nobody can push through. And then this translates into your health. You know, you're going to make decisions for yourself to not stay out late or go drinking, but instead you're going to go to bed early because you value your health and your well-being and you love yourself. You start to realize that your body is a temple and that this is the structure and the vehicle that you use to operate in the 5D. And now you're at a whole nother level of operation and vision. That's self-awareness, but it's all love. Love is just awareness. Love is light. Love is just pure illumination. And anything below that is just a fragmented version of it where there's shadows and darkness.
And if you think about it, we're like always moving beings, right? We're like just think of ourselves as like just a little moving being in a huge infinite world. And you're never going to have like, oh, I'm always at this love sphere here. You're going to drop down a little. You're going to come up. You're going to drop down. And it's an ongoing life experience. That's why we chose to come to this world, to have these experiences.
One definition I want to highlight here, and this was in Anthony DeMello's awareness book, which I highly recommend.
Yeah. He
defines human as enlightened beings, not the human experience is I'm going to get angry and I'm sad and depressed and anxiety. That's not the human experience. We are putting human, when you break it down, light being, hue, light, man, matter, human or light matter beings. We are images of God. We are God personified or individualized, and we are the creators, the operators and destroyers of our lives, of this world. And we dumb it down and put it into a box to say that anxiety and depression is normal.
I have a question. Maybe it's not a question. It's more of a comment. That's because of the world that we currently live in. We are in a trance. We are hypnotized to believe that somebody else has our power.
In the world that we're looking back on, because we're here in a different portal.
We are here in a different portal. And that is what we are inviting you listeners to be part of.
Yeah.
Become love. Take your power back.
But I think practically speaking, in terms of relationships between men and women, and if a woman brings a situation to a man, and why I was talking to you about, I was saying you have a way of dealing with that, maybe now that you didn't before.
Oh, yeah, it's developed. All right.
Okay, so you developed this from, life experience. So we can't just say people are just going to know and they can just evolve and get to this high level. He learned this. He had relationships where he reacted a different way to these situations. Now when a woman brings something to him, like if she's going to say, oh, you did this, you did that, or whatever that she didn't like, he knows where she's really coming from is, do you love me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
are you attracted to me?
This is the thing.
Do you care about me?
Okay.
And he can address that instead of addressing the story. That's the perception she had of
the door that he held open for 3 women.
Right. Like something like that.
Yes.
This is the thing that's like, a man is valued based on his experience, and you only get that through life. Right. And so that's a key thing. And we're here to guide the next generation. And a woman who is brought up by a father or a masculine mentor who is embodying that divine masculinity to teach the ways of how to manage your emotions and what it looks like to be able to be the provider and the securer, the ones who providing safety for you to be the best version of yourself and create self-awareness. And then it's a generational effect where if you have the man doing that and the mom doing that, and now the mom is carrying over traits that the dad has and the dad's carrying over traits that the mom has. And it's like, we've seen them in movies at least, where it's like you got that very, masculine frame who's very nurturing, but at the same time very strong in his ways. And you got the mom who's challenging the man just as much as the man challenges the woman. And the point being, going back to how to develop this ability to decipher what the woman is actually saying, it only came through trial and tribulation on my end. I had men in my life who were going, women are just, they're tough. You happy wife, happy life, just make her happy. And I'm like, you're fucking miserable, man. Like, why would I go that route? Like, that just looks like hell.
But I think if we take it back a few steps, let me
finish a point here really quick, because what it is that women, you are speaking a different language than what men speak, than what men speak. Because
I like
it's
that quote.
The whole
Man
literal.
speak.
Man speak.
we're speaking from like rational, like this is red, this is blue,
Literal.
this is what it is.
Literal.
Yeah, very literal,
Very.
right? And we're masters of this third dimension. We've mastered it. Y'all are on the fifth dimension, far beyond that.
We have a more of an intuitive way of.
Yeah.
And so you're speaking in feelings. So it's like you're trying to decipher feelings that can't be interpreted for words. Words limit the feelings that you're experiencing, right? So now we're trying to get up to your level and you're trying to bring it down to our level, and it's just not meeting. So it's frustration. When your point is that you're not being seen, felt, or heard. So you're not feeling the love, and you're reacting either out of anger, frustration, sadness, or something of that lower frequency. And the man is taking it on personally as his own self-worth, and then he bottles up his feelings,
as
doesn't know how to express it.
As something that he didn't even, something he's accused of that he didn't even do. So in a defensive stance is where the man is taking it. And that's where the problem is,
and
right?
And then it derives back to he's taking it on because usually he embodied this at a young age from his mom. Or his dad, or a combination of the two. And so that's where the cycle repeats until he breaks the cycle and realizes that it was not him who was the problem. It was the individual not being able to express themselves and take out their emotional lack and lack of self-love out on the person as a child. And then they embody that as adults, but we're really just big children trying to figure out.
You guys always go deep here.
I know, but so the point being, to wrap it all up, to give the mic to Christina, is that women talk in camouflage, and you got to be able to see the camouflage.
Yeah,
and then you just got to
care about her. You like
and if you stop trying to figure it out and you just get receptive and get and men, the more in tune you get with yourself in spirit and heart and mind, you start to get to their level of language, and now they start being seen, felt, and heard at a level where it's like, oh, okay.
Because
I see what's going on.
Because we're vibrational creatures. So I'm gonna give, and you guys stop me as I'm going through the story, because I think stories and metaphors help people understand.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go from a more personal story, and apologies to my family or any of my past relationships that I'm gonna bring up during this story. But so when I was a child, right out of the womb, I was like, my mom always said I was a little bit different. And I grew up to like 2, and they thought that I had some kind of a speech problem. And so my parents were super young. They didn't know what to do. So they kind of just watched it. And by like 2.5, 3, I still wasn't really talking, but I would walk around pointing and hugging people. And like, I was now looking back, I was doing more of a feeling and vibration. I didn't understand why these people used all these words, and I still don't. And I'm actually surprised I'm doing a podcast like this. I think I'm finally finding my voice of like, to be able to share these vibrations with people, you have to share your voice. And so I walked around pointing at things, hugging people, or getting mad when they were mad or whatever, and I was mirroring them. Finally, I started to learn my words. They think I'm from a different planet. Some of the things I say and the words I use are always wrong, but it's just how I am. I came down here, I feel like, to help people understand that we're all functioning on a vibrational level. Yeah. And so I had to go through all these things. My parents were young. My dad was strong. He had this frame of, I'm going to protect the family. He was always working, never there, because he was providing for us. And that was the only way he knew. But my mom let her feelings go too far. So when they were together, which was few and far between that I saw them, but when I did see them, they fought a lot because my mom was always angry or frustrated because my dad wasn't giving her the love or like that,
the attention,
and my mom is she's working on this, and I love her to death. She loves us with so much love, but she was always very like judgmental of every situation. So it would bring the vibration down in our house. And so as I was growing up as a kid, I was always in this like, what is wrong with this? We're supposed to be like loving each other. And like innately, I knew that like love was where we were supposed to be. And why was all this fighting and anger happening? And so I would shut down, disassociate. Right. And so then I learned those things.
Yeah.
And so then I went into all of my relationships as that angry woman.
Yeah.
And I needed to work on myself before any of my relationships changed. So things like, maybe I got mad. I don't remember everything that happened, but my first major relationship, maybe I got mad that he was looking at another woman or something, but it escalated from there because I didn't know how to be seen and heard and find the person who could reciprocate that love because I wasn't taught that as a child.
But why I think this is a necessary conversation because men need to understand what are the sensitivities of women. What do they need to feel? They need to feel loved. They need to feel secure.
But if the woman doesn't feel loved, I didn't love myself. I hated myself because of the way that I viewed the world.
Right.
I came in viewing the world in love, and I was changed. My world changed at some point in my life, and then I had so much hate for myself and so much I was so I did all these really risky, stupid things in my teenage years because I just did not love myself. And then all of that attracted everything that I had in my life.
And that's the whole thing.
It's the same thing with men. Yeah, it's the same thing with men. Like I was attracting women who didn't love themselves because deep down I didn't love myself to the capacity of attracting the person who loves themselves.
And so then the question becomes is and I've done this.
And let's define not loving yourself. You were unaware. You love yourself, yes, and we can acknowledge that there was parts of us that we love ourselves, but there was undeveloped, unaware parts of ourselves. That's what I mean by love. When I say love, and I say this to the people that I work with, and my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend, when we were talking, I was like, when I say love, it means I see you. That's what it means.
You're interesting.
I know,
but I don't think a woman wants to hear those.
No,
things,
because it's you gotta get clear with your definitions on the feelings. Like if you're being love. Here's another controversial take, and this is again from Anthony DeMello's Awareness. What you think is love is actually just attachment.
That's what I was just going to say. You were on my same vibe.
Exactly.
And that's what people want. They want to feel attached to another person. You want to be in union with another person. You want to be seen by another person and feel like they like you.
That's what you think.
But that now you're codependent, though.
You are codependent. So, and I'm going to tell you. So let me finish the story.
Yes, please.
Because I went in and I had my long-term relationship that I was married for a long time, had 2 children with my ex-spouse, and that is when I grew the most because I kept wondering, why are we going through these same cycles? And he was angry all the time. I was making him angry because that's the only thing that I knew how to get attention. So anger equals attention. Anger equals attention.
Yeah. He mentioned before.
And so if I wasn't angry or we weren't fighting, then I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel heard. And I also was in this subconscious cycle of thinking that was the only way that this is how relationships worked. And so then I started doing things for myself. I started working out. I started going for massages. I started leaving him at home with the kids so I could have girl nights out, do different things because I was like, why am I so unhappy? I have the perfect life. What everybody says, you have your little house with your white picket fence and your 2 dogs and your 2 kids. And we both have good jobs or whatever, and things are supposed to be amazing. And I kept asking myself, why are they not amazing? What is we have this love, we have this attachment. We were totally attached in the wrong ways because we weren't healed.
And
Right.
what it looks like in that scenario, attachment, I think you got to be really honest and willing to take responsibility for everything in your life, not just when it's convenient, but every single thing. And what I mean by that is when you do something and it makes me feel good, that's an attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do something that makes me feel bad, that's an attachment. And so when you can start to recognize that she's doing this thing that makes me feel a certain thrill and joy inside, you got to be really questioning where that is coming from, just as much as the anger, the anxiety, or the negativity that comes from that.
That's why we need to really realize that everything is a reflection. So why you say, well, you have to love yourself first, because then to love yourself and take care of yourself the way you just listed, you start thinking of ways to take care of you. And that makes you get on a better state of mind and a better just being. And you're showing yourself you love yourself, because no one else is going to show you they love you if you can't even show it to yourself.
Well, and that is why one of the last episodes we had, I talked about how when you change and when you start loving yourself, 99% of the relationships fail because the other person has a hard time staying in that container with you. Because they're stuck down.
You're too bright. You're too light.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it takes the two people to see how they're going to work that situation out.
If that person decides to move up with you, then yes. Right. But a lot of times they can't because they haven't done the inner reflection.
Right.
So there's it's about alignment. It's not about attachment.
And that's why we got to keep in mind that we're living our lives and nothing's wrong. We are living our lives and we're connecting with different people on a daily basis. We got to be open to whoever comes in and however they come in, because they don't need to be a husband. They don't need to be a wife. They don't need to be a girlfriend. They can just be a friend, and that's okay.
That's right. And actually, that's really important to say, because that could actually maybe save a relationship. Because you're not looking for that one person to always meet every single need. Right. So if you can be more open to allowing other people in, that will help elevate and even things out.
This is a path of learning and evolving for all parties.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to
unfold. But this goes back to why we really need to stop putting laws and rules and words in place, because I believe that marriage is was created as a jail for I know everybody can kill me for saying this, but
no, I know where you're going.
Marriage is created by a lower vibration to keep people keep people merged in a union that doesn't work for them.
Well, if it goes to that place,
it works for a societal norm that keeps you in a box.
Exactly, and think about can you look up what the word where it came from, marriage? There's think of where that word came from, and then why we put laws and regulations into all these rules. The universe doesn't put these kinds of rules. They don't have the universe never gave us words for this stuff.
Now, again, referencing Anthony DeMello's awareness, he goes into the word is not the thing.
Yeah.
Right? So the concept, the idea gets you to the very front door of the thing that you're trying to experience, but then you have to disassociate from the word and the definition and the meaning to actually experience the thing. So he goes into the definition of God. He's like, God, the word God is the last thing that's going to hold you back from actually experiencing God.
Mm-hmm. You have a preconceived belief.
Exactly. So it needs to be a certain thing when all that is that and will ever be has no bounds and has no definition nor word to describe it or him or whatever you want to describe it as.
Well, that's where you can, as you let go of the words and these ideas that the words bring into your head, and you go with more of the flow. And you choose every day to show up for each other and grow with each other. And instead of saying I own you now because now we're part of this marriage, and now you're going to, if you want to divorce me, 50% goes to this, and all these things. I guess then, I mean, and actually this would be an interesting idea. Like, I'd like to hear from you, Michelle, because when you think of a marriage, wouldn't it be better to, if you're committed to the person and you are truly committed, put something together as like a trust where you kind of commit each other in a whole generational way. And then if there is something that, you know, we decide to go our separate ways, you still have to stay committed to what you created.
That's a nice way. But see, and that's the thing why I think people need to be careful with their words, their thoughts, their feelings, because we all go in with the best of intentions, but we don't know what the other person is really feeling, thinking, or saying. And with people not saying the correct words when something arises that makes a situation difficult, that can, you know, cause disharmony in the relationship. And so when we want to say, oh, create a trust, and that can, but you have to still have the intentions. And I love what you're saying, though, because like, let's say people were to divorce after that, there's still the cohesiveness and the security of that trust for the families,
yes,
which is a nice thing. But we have to build that already. We should build that in the relationships already. That's why I'm saying people just need to understand where women are coming from, where there's a place of lack of love in them, and why they would have a perception of something that may not be the perception of the man, and how he can rectify it and just keep the marriage like in harmany.
I think I have a hard time sometimes seeing where you're coming from, but I really see this now.
Right. But I think with trust is that shows the ultimate security and commitment to a wife.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's why I think marriages should do it, because a man is struggling with not knowing how to make a woman feel secure in the marriage. That's ultimate. If you do a trust, that shows you're committed to this relationship and to providing, protecting for generations to come. But if you don't do that and you're all, I need a prenuptial, and not to say those documents are wrong, because some people should get them, but because they already know with the intention that there's going to be something down the line. But if you go in without that intention and you're really sincere in it, that is the ultimate way to show the love to a woman.
Yes.
And so
that's security, right? Trust in and of itself is the most secure vehicle.
And that's why people need to come talk to you to do this, because I believe that is the man's frame then, that you stay within. That's the masculine idea of where are we going? What are we going to do with our generations? How are we moving forward?
The ultimate way to show love. And that's why I say, but it all starts with conversation. If she ever comes to you with a thing, you still have to stay in the frame and understand, I still love you no matter what you're saying over here. And I understand where you're coming from, because it's coming from a place of not feeling love. Because I think it's not a coincidence that most women have these situations that they can feel like they need to come to a man and tell him, I think you did this, or I felt this way when you did that. It's because we are in a place of we need to feel secure, and by your actions, we sometimes don't feel secure. And so how do we rectify that? And how do we take care of ourselves? But how do you take care of me when I'm doing that?
So women, you have an innate ability to pick up energy and body language at a level that we don't.
Right.
Right. You're born crazy with it. You grow up with it for your survival. Whereas a man grows up and uses his brute strength and his force to be able to get ahead. And this is the thing, like, where you need both sides. You can't, just back to my point with somebody who's in a same-sex marriage or relationship, I can't relate. You got to be able to bring your side to the story of this situation. Like, a man can raise a boy to become a man. The woman certainly helps in that process, but you only experience a part of it. And I think it's part of the man's duty to teach the woman the perspective and experience of the man and what they need, just as much as it is the woman. That then in turn allows the woman to be able to express herself and her needs.
It's a push and pull.
It's chicken or egg. Like, they both come. There's not one or the other.
Yes.
Or what comes first.
Right.
But
it's the idea.
But there's certainly, like, when I look at you two are unique in the concept of, like, you're taking responsibility, you're owning your stuff, and you're working on yourself to create the life that you want. And that in turn is shaping the men around you. And I'm going to say this for the men listening, it's like, it's your job to accelerate that and take on responsibility, because it's a force multiplier, because the woman's looking to you to read the energy and read your frame, because she's still going to have her feelings, and it's still going to be something that, as in tune and as spiritually and self-aware as she is, she has more feelings and is more in tune with her feelings. And she's got a cycle that goes up and down throughout the month that men don't have to go through. It's a different, you're going through waves.
Yes.
Men don't go through that. And that's a whole nother thing to handle.
Well, and that's, I think, a whole nother
that is another podcast
we could do, because I can't remember. I was listening to somebody else, and they were basically saying millionaires don't read their horoscopes, billionaires do. And what does that mean? it goes to what you're talking about. Connected. It's all connected. If we can learn how to manage a woman's cycle, well, our cycles, women or men, can understand that we don't work in 24-hour cycles, and then also understand that each one of us is unique. Even if we are a twin, an identical twin, we are each unique in what we bring to this world. And by understanding how we come into this world, our birth date, time, place, and how we are a cog in this universe, and how we're all working together to have one goal, one outcome, ultimate love, be part of the God energy, then once we understand that, we can manage our life so much better. But that's for another podcast.
We'll wrap it up here shortly. We're getting to the hour here, but I just want to make a point here. Your life, your joy, your well-being, your health, your level of life that you're living at is completely connected to the relationships in your life. And it's first and foremost with yourself. But we're talking about a topic here that is at the root of everybody's joy and also pain. And it all just simply comes down to you and your relationship with yourself. But then you got to have all these conversations and these experiences with these other people that are your mirror to be able to master yourself.
We could probably wrap it up with finishing my story. So after after I got my divorce, I went through this phase of self-reflection. I was going through hypnosis and working on my words and how I talk to myself and all the affirmations that I am worthy, I am healthy, all that stuff that I've shared with you guys in the past. What I had to realize is that I could manifest anything that I wanted. And I worked through that with the hypnosis process, understanding that all of my thoughts and the person that I wanted to be with wasn't a name, wasn't like this, Jake or John or whatever. It was a feeling, and it was an idea of what I ultimately needed in my life to continue to test me and continue to make me grow as a person. And I manifested my current husband, and we have a great relationship. It's all about how I feel about myself, though. And I even notice when I get low, because I do, that he kind of goes into the low place with me. And when I can do my recognize, release, replace, then I can bring our relationship back up. But it started with me. And it started with me realizing that my fighting and getting angry and saying, I'll use his travel. I hated that he traveled. And I would get really, really frustrated and mad, and because I felt unsafe. I finally realized I was unsafe. And when I realized that, now it's like we do our separate things. We are happy when we're together, but we don't look for that unhealthy attachment, or at least me, and he's the same way. We don't look for that unhealthy attachment of always having to be with each other.
It's there to serve you.
But did you really feel unsafe just because he wasn't present, or was it some other insecurity rising, and did you really have a conversation about that?
Well, it was.
You know
so we had a whole conversation. So I think Jenny was on this show before, but I worked on EFT, some traumas that I had went through age regression hypnosis. I was doing a lot of trauma release. And I mean, you guys, trauma happens if someone pushes you in the hall and you forget, you might forget about it, but that like shocks you. I'm not talking like you have to be raped and like some horrible things, but everybody has the trauma. You've got to get in touch with it, release it, and realize where it's coming from. For me, the unsafeness was something that happened in my childhood. I realized it in an EFT session, and I was able to release it and rewire my nervous system.
Yeah.
Because I felt like when people leave, that they'll never come back. And so when he was leaving, I was feeling like really anxious and unsafe. Like I wasn't safe in my own body. So I needed him to be there to make me feel safe. And when I finally realized that and released it, I was like a whole different person, and it really helped our relationship.
Well, but I believe there must have been, you let him know I feel unsafe when you leave. And there must have been a conversation where he says, you don't have to feel that way because I'm coming back.
We laugh about this.
You know?
So we got in this huge fight, and then we had to get in the car 8 hours and go down to Memphis to see his daughter play softball. And we were fighting the entire time. I'm like, this isn't working for me. I always said, like, if you're traveling, I'm not like this, because he had gotten a new job. I'm like, this is never going to work. We're not going to, I'm done. Like, I am not this. I said I wouldn't do this. I'm not doing this. And we kind of, it all came out that he was like, I will do whatever you want. You want me to quit the job? But I don't understand.
See, you have to understand why we're saying it then, because he has to stay in frame, right? And understand where you're coming from and what your sensitivities are and what he needs to say to make you feel loved. He's willing to do whatever it takes to be with you. He just showed that by telling you that, right? You didn't have to make him do that or whatever.
And he helped me, he helped me grow.
Right. And that made you feel loved, right? That he even said he would do that.
Yeah, because he could have said, I mean, if we want to really talk about it, he could have said, you're a crazy bitch.
Right.
Like, fine,
and that wouldn't have gone well for the relationship,
yeah,
right?
And we wouldn't have made it through.
That's the point. That's the point that men need to understand.
This is what I mean by like the mission. So you put me in a position where somebody I'm dating and says you can't, do the strength and mindfulness thing, and you can't go talking about the things that you talk about, and it's not to say that I'm very open to hearing perspective and saying, okay, what's really coming at, as we were talking about. It's like somebody's distraught. I'm not going, you need to fix it, tough shit, move on. But it's like when I'm clear on my mission, you asked me about this in the WhatsApp, like, what's your mission? I'm like, to preserve masculinity. To preserve and enlightened masculinity, to bring it to the state that it needs to be. And in turn, what that does is that allows femininity to blossom and bloom and grow.
Well, I think what you're saying, to go back to the car story, is that you're saying because he is okay and aligned in his masculinity, he was able to hold that frame for me. So I had the ability to let my feelings out without him feeding into bad feelings.
Correct,
yeah, and then men as a whole need to know their purpose. And so when they're connecting with a woman, if a woman is not going to be in sync with your purpose, you have to know what to do about that. You can be sensitive to whatever she's saying, but if it's not aligning with your purpose because she's really just putting it down, then you have to know how to move.
So
that's staying in frame.
Yeah, and we were talking about an example where the man doesn't do the thing he needs to do to fulfill the mission because the woman is insecure, and he's going to leave the job for that. And so it can go both ways. Because
that's true.
What I'm saying about, like, I know my mission and my purpose and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it for, it's like, it's for my son, it's for the next generation, it's for the well-being of the world. And I believe that in my freaking bones.
So that's so true.
But if I get a woman who comes into my life and is insecure about it and goes, I can't handle this can't happen, then I know there's ways to work around it, to work together to make it happen. But then you got to really look at it and go, where is she coming from? Yeah. Where is this coming from?
But again,
and is she really for the mission?
Or the idea.
Yeah.
The idea. You've created this idea as a life together, right? And so you continue to create that idea and move forward. And he asked me, he said, like, we agreed on this job. We knew what it was going to do. This is getting us to the next level of our life. Like, what is going on?
So he's got the vision that reminds you, and you go,
both talked about it.
Yeah. And it was keeping in. So it came full circle, right?
Yeah.
It's like why we have to sit in our masculinity or our femininity and know where in the relationship, how you keep your vision moving forward and continue to keep those feelings, good feelings.
Yes. And keep each other feeling secure in the relationship.
So there was the other example we were talking about, your partner in law.
Oh, yeah.
His wife. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So why I talk about purpose and men needing to be in their purpose is because you can be in a field, like we were criminal defense, and we could have been hired for a certain client that was in the news. And so just having that all over the news and having the wife having to listen to that and having to feel like other people will know, and she didn't want that. She told him not to do that job. But I said to him, does she not know what you do for a living? I mean, we're defending people charged with murder. Mm-hmm. You're a criminal defense attorney. Now, this is going to put us all over the news if we did it. So I'm like, I didn't understand. And, you as a business want to have as much maybe publicity as you can get to get hired and all of that. So that's why I say staying in your purpose as a man. Yes, you need to show your woman that they can feel secure with you. But you're supposed to provide, protect, lead, right? And how can you do that if she's not supporting your purpose or your mission, right? If he's supposed to do that for the family, then you need to support him in doing that. If you can't support him in doing what he does for a living, then don't marry that man.
So again, going back to the man is loyal to the mission and the woman is loyal to her feelings. It's like when there's the vision and the man basically makes the nest, right? And you're like, I love this nest. It makes me feel good, comfortable. And I'm not even just talking about the house. I'm talking about his energy, his poise, how he handles situations, how he handles your conversations and all those things. It's everything. And you are now able to have the space and the place to be able to decipher your feelings in a way that helps you to understand yourself more, which then helps you to come to the conversation and the situation with much more poise and awareness. And this is how peace begets more peace, where it's like love begets more. And now it's love meeting love. And there's that place and space where now you guys can both live interdependently and grow together, but also grow in your own individuality and not worry about where this person's going or what they're doing because you have it all.
And ultimately, that's what everybody wants. And so I think that's a good place to stop for today.
I wanted to say something about men needing to really stay in their frame and take the lead because sometimes they can see better than the woman can. Just because the woman wants to be with you because you're just so great, he can still realize what is good for his path, what is good for his purpose, what is good for her, what does she need, and can I provide that? So you have a broader logical picture of the scenario than maybe a woman will have if she's just being more emotional and wanting what she wants and not thinking long-term and purpose and all of that when a man can be thinking of those things. So.
Well put.
All right. Well, I think that does it for Remember You. Thank you for listening, and we will come back with more great opportunities for you to learn how to change your mindset and get more in tune with your love and your light. Thank you for listening. We love you guys.